just sent you pictures from your days.
All right. Coach, got anything open or start with questions?
Yeah, everybody doing good today? All right, so got to start off by thinking this is really a unique experience in the Swamp Saturday night relative to our fans. They put on a show, right, for the entire country to see. And they impacted our team, brought a lot of energy to our players, created momentum in the game, and certainly made it very difficult for Tennessee. Caused procedure penalties. Ultimately, they were a part of the plan and certainly did their part. So can't compliment them enough. When you get texts from people that have been around here for a long time and they tell you that's the best it's been in 15 years, I think you're probably doing something right. So our fan base was incredible. That's what the University of Florida football can be. We need to do that more consistently, and certainly as a staff and as a team, we can do our part. So proud of the team. Ultimately, I think that was a little bit of a buildup of a 2-week response. Proud of the response, in particular from the players, and certainly the staff provided great leadership. And now you're presented with a new set of problems, right? So I think ultimately just met with a leadership group at 11. I think this is a challenge of principle-centered leadership. And I think ultimately, I think it's important that you don't react, and that you actually have something that you can stand on. And I would say throughout history, we've learned that there's a set of values and principles that are time-tested. And ultimately, we try to teach those to the players. And I think they used that, right? These can be a guide. They can help you stay on the right path when you're, experiencing tough things. I do think they can allow you to evaluate where you're at. They can help you recenter and ultimately help direct your decisions, correct the things you need to correct in your life. And I was proud of the players and the approach they took since the Utah game. Now we can use those same things to apply to success, right? So, reality is that you don't accomplish anything significant by staying in your comfort zone. I think we were uncomfortable for 2 weeks. We were frustrated. We were angry. We were embarrassed. That allowed us to have an edge and certainly affected the way we prepared for Tennessee and helped us play the way we played. So I think it's important that we keep that, right? We have discipline, right? And discipline ultimately is making yourself do things that you don't want to do, right? So our consistency is going to be key, okay? So set of issues that come with success. Last year's team couldn't handle it. Momentum. We failed to capitalize several times throughout the season. So I think this group has the right approach. And I'm excited about, the work that we're going to do this week. This Charlotte team has a new staff with a new head coach, and they have a complete overhaul of the two deep. I mean, we're talking about, multiple transfers across the board from all over the country. And, when you turn the film on, I think the scoreboard doesn't necessarily predict what you would see, right? I think this is a very capable group, big, long, fast. I do think they're very fundamentally sound. I think they play with toughness, and I think they've got just enough here that they can create some issues for you. So it's important that we stay humble in how we prepare, that we are getting uncomfortable this week so we can be comfortable Saturday, and ultimately try to sustain some of this momentum that we have here. So what questions do we have?
Billy, you just mentioned some of us probably going to ask you about handling success. Do you refer to anything from last season? Maybe the Utah game, you guys are such a high, and then Kentucky.
Right.
South Carolina, such a high.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? So we had.
Go back to those experiences done?
Well, we don't do that now. I mean, I think we've done that throughout the offseason. I mean, I think it's part of the messaging from the jump, right, when you evaluate the season, you know. And ultimately, it's leadership all throughout the organization, right? I mean, I think every part of your building has responsibility to model what we expect from the players, right? So we all have human nature to get comfortable, to relax, to not have the same urgency or detail, to not have the self-discipline to follow through, right? So it's our job to attack human nature when we see it, right? So, and that's at the player level. That's the video, equipment, nutrition, the training room, the strength conditioning staff, you know, all parts of the building. You know, the challenge here is that we do what we would ask the players to do, right? So we're not just talking about our young people, we're talking about everybody.
You alluded to no finger pointing, et cetera, Saturday night. Would you talk about how the leaders you've seen and how they have really brought this team to a better spot right now than they were after Utah?
Yeah, I think, you know, ultimately just the ability to take ownership, personal responsibility, right, for your contribution to the team, right, and realizing that this is a team game, and it resembles life in a lot of ways, right? So I would say that one of the things we try to teach our guys is that the minute that you start living life and you are not an excuse maker, you know, and you don't look to blame others or blame the circumstance, and you accept responsibility of the things that you can do better right away. Like, hey, I can do this better, and make the necessary changes. I think that helps you. It not only helps you in football, but it helps you in life. So hopefully we're making progress there. You know, I think it's to be determined, starting this week.
You talked about making them uncomfortable. Is that kind of trying to counterbalance all the adulation, the ranking?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you know, ultimately, when you get beat and you go to the locker room and you're on the bus after the game, you got 0 text messages, right? Okay, when you win and you play on that, well, I think you get that by just having self-discipline, you know, the behaviors, the habits, you know. We're all built to kind of survive, right? We're all built to be comfortable, you know. So we all want to hit the snooze button, you know, to some degree, right? Just like all you guys did this morning. So what I'm saying is that we have to anticipate what is coming. That's the great thing about the University of Florida, right? We can have an environment like that, okay? We can have a tremendous experience. We've also had an environment like that and had bad experience, and it's magnified here, right? We're in a state with 22 million people. We got more beat writers covering our program than any program in the country, right? We have 500 million living alumni, right? So, and there's passion here. So they want to tell you all about it when it's bad, and they want to tell you all about it when it's good, okay? And I think it's important that we have something that we can stand on independent of that, a process and a system, and we can eliminate the external, and we can say, hey, am I doing the best I can do for the team today?
Along with the fans, how helpful do you think it was just having some of those former players like Lewis Murphy and obviously Brandon Spikes has been around the program, but just how helpful from a mindset standpoint?
You know, I think that one of the things that we've tried to do here upon arrival is get better at all parts of our operation. And we wanted to engage former players. I think it's important that because you really think about this place, why do we have the passion that we have? It's because there is a lot of great memories that were made in that stadium, right? And ultimately, the coaches that were here, the players that were here that contributed to that, we want them to come back at the drop of a hat and feel comfortable and be able to do that. So game day presents that opportunity, and I think it's always awesome for some of that experience, some of that wisdom to impact your team, right? And that can be good and bad, right? So I can speak on behalf of Brandon Spikes. He's made our team better, right? And partly because he cares about the University of Florida. You know, it's made him better. It created opportunities for him. It helped him create value for himself. And he's back here doing the right thing and getting his degree. And that's allowed him an opportunity to be around our players and impact our entire organization. So he was here when they were successful, right? And I think he can speak about that. And I think that's impactful for our team.
Eugene Wilson, did he have an update as Colorado? And how do you handle the kicking situation this week?
Yeah, so Trey's banged up, nothing long-term. Ultimately, the x-ray's normal. And I think that it will take him a little bit of time, you know, to return. Now, it's going to be a pain tolerance deal. It'll be to be determined. It could be this week, could be next week. We'll give you an update on Wednesday officially on where we're at. But the good thing here is I think big picture going to get him back at some point. The kicker deal, obviously Adam didn't have it early. And let me say this, I think the protection also contributed to the issue. But I do think Trey did a fantastic job, you know, of stepping up within the game. We'll go kick them as usual this week and create competition, and then we'll make a decision going into the game, just like we're going to do at all these other positions, whether that's backup quarterback or backup star or lots of positions on our team.
It's been a whole, I think, 37 hours since the win. Do you have a gauge yet for how the team has handled this success?
I like what I saw last night, and then I like what I heard when I went to the leadership group today at 11. So I think they'll have a platform here at 11:30 and 1. We have 2 team recovery groups, you know, and we'll see where we're at. But ultimately, the difficult days during the week are Tuesday, Wednesday. That's when we find out where we're at.
Defense, first series, Tennessee got them pretty quickly, and yet that was pretty much all Tennessee did a good bit of the night, and they had some other plays. But that response, what did you see there? And I know you don't like singling guys out, but can you just talk about Austin Armstrong's, his specific impact on what we're seeing?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think they had a fantastic plan. I do think when you play these teams with that are drastically different, you know, you try your best to recreate it. It's kind of like playing a triple option team, right? You kind of, early in the game, it's a nightmare, and then you kind of get used to it. So I think that, and ultimately, the big play in that, we just aren't aligned correctly. We're not playing the right coverage combination, and it led to a big play. So, you know, I think that ultimately the crowd was a factor. I thought we played with really good fundamentals. We got the call in. We had our cleats in the ground. We strike blockers. We played well on the edges of the formations. We covered down the perimeter. We missed a few tackles, but for the most part, when space tackles were presented, we did our job. They got a few big plays, but we survived a few. And ultimately, I mean, I think Austin's done a great job since the day he's been here. You know, and I think this game is a reflection of that, much like Utah was, much like McNeese was, right? So we have better personnel. I think all parts of that side of the ball are in year 2. And I think Austin's done a good job connecting with the players and connecting with the staff.
What do you think about Jordan Castel and the way that he played, the breakup that he had in the end zone? And also, I don't know if you saw on film, but what he did with Jakeem Jackson after he gave up the touchdown and told him to keep his head up. Just what do you think of that moment?
Yeah, Jakeem, I mean, Jordan is, you know, you evaluate players, you recruit players, you get to know them their families. And look, Jordan was a 6'2", 200-pound kid that was playing corner that had, you know, really good tape. There were questions about whether he was tough, could tackle. We felt like we had enough evidence there. Love his family. His mom's an incredible lady. And then obviously his dad's story is really unique there. So this kid's been through some things. He's got some maturity. He's had to grow up. I think when I really knew I thought he could be special is when I went to his school, and then you see him in that environment. You see him interact with teachers and administrators. He was a leader, just a guy that had a lot of presence about him. So showed up in January and has been about his business, and ultimately he's playing well as a rookie for us. So great play on the deep ball. Most kids panic. They get a PI or so that was impressive. And look, the guy's playing partly because he's mature enough to handle it. He can process, he can communicate, he's got physical ability. But I think he is a future leader, and certainly amongst his classmates, he's well thought of. And obviously, Jakeem's out there playing as a rookie. That's his boy, right? So he's doing his best to encourage him. So those are good things. Those are healthy things.
How do you handle 268 unread texts?
Yeah, try to do it as fast as possible. But I try to delete them all. That's what I try to do. I got work to do.
Is there a trade-off at all that you have to accept within this defense with regard to big plays? Because I know that with how aggressive Austin Armstrong wants to be up front, that's kind of something that can happen. If you attack the quarterback aggressively, you have to kind of trade off a little bit in the back end of the defense.
Well, I think reality is the right mixture is what you want, right? You want to keep the other team off balance. Those are ultimately that's you can't do the same thing all the time, right? So, I think that's what we did. We played the right mix of coverage, and we played some light boxes in there. Where our front is controlling the game, right? So, you got to keep them guessing, right? And ultimately, I think we did a little bit of that.
Sour, anything on Micah?
Nothing yet, just in-house discipline. Outside of that, look, it's not just Micah, okay? We got staff members that probably need to be disciplined as well. But, no, I think ultimately that's a teachable moment. It's an opportunity for us to talk about composure and poise, ego, temper. Because, look, football presents an opportunity to teach some of those things, right? That's not going to be the first time that you're going to be in an altercation. And look, you make a decision like that. We had multiple players that screwed up. They compromised the entire team, right? Because you may not be available in the future, whatever the case may be. No different than some guy calls you a name at the local bar on Friday night, and are you going to compromise your wife and your kids and make a poor decision, right? So these things are teachable moments, and ultimately, hopefully, we do enough on our part to teach them.
He's the only one who threw a punch, though, right?
Say it again.
He's the only one who threw a punch, though.
Well, obviously, you hadn't watched the TV copy, but
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
right. Okay, guys, thank you all.